Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. I just wanted to make this video after the Twitter Spaces last night. Um, Thanks to the guys for organising that, for Robert and Jimmy and Gavin and whoever else. Man, do you know, I need a list of all the different Twitter names, and especially, and I hope perhaps the guys at Hedgeye might listen to this. We need to get proper names on the arena. I'm gonna do an Andy Dufresne and write a letter or tweet every day until we get proper names on the arena. There you go. There's my little rant. So thanks to those guys for organising it. I've found it really helpful the last one or two that I've been able to join. So last night the question came up about the transition to quad one. I just wanted to highlight a part of. I'm not going to share the chart on the video because it's not my chart to share, but I will share it on the arena. But we all know which one it is. It's the one with all the ETFs down the left-hand side, like 50 ETFs, then 10 or 15 columns showing the expected return, and it's columns by quad, and then quad by, transition from, say, quad 1 to quad 1, quad 1 to quad 2, quad 1 to quad 3. You know the chart, you know the grid that I'm talking about, okay? Now, obviously, there's only one single column per quad, per instance, and it just gives you one number. I just wanted to highlight, at least this is how I think that number is calculated. At least this is kind of the point I've got to now, okay? Now, just beware, this is obviously Janky spreadsheets, which you know from me anyway. This is just my interpretation of what the Hedgeye quad model does. But the most important part is the calculation. Okay. So right down here, this is for XLI. So this is the data for XLI, okay? So right down here we have the expected return, which is the number that you would see in the column on that chart. Okay, so all you see is one number. So plus, so for instance, this, I'm just taking quad one because that's the one we're going into. Okay, now obviously this calculation is done for each separate quad, but these are just the values for quad one that are in this column here. Okay, so all you see on that chart is just one number, plus 4.4%, okay? But I think it's important to understand how that's calculated, okay? So that's what I'm going to try and show here. So you have, so what do we have to do? So we have to, so for XLI, the data that goes back for us, okay, these are the total number of quads that it's seen, okay? So there's 20 quad 1s, 23 quad 2s, 26 quad 3s, and 20 quad 4s, okay? And then you then split those down into how many were positive, so how many had a positive return, and how many had a negative return, okay? So for us, as we're doing the calculation down below for quad 1, so there's 15 positive quad 1s, and 5 negative quad 1s, okay, which gives us a percentage positive of 75% and negative of 25%, okay? So now the other part of the calculation is we have to calculate the average return of just the positive quads, okay? So this is the average return in these 15 instances of quad 1. This is the average return in these 5 instances of quad 1. Okay? That gives us a number here, and I'm going to show you how it's calculated. Okay? So to do a weighted average, you take the average return in positive multiplied by the percentage positive plus the average negative return So again, the average return in those 5 negative, okay, multiplied by the percentage negative. Then you do all of that over the total sum of the occurrences. So obviously there's 100%. So that gives us a return of 4.4%. So because that's the only part that we see, we only see this. So this is obviously for quad 1. We only see that. And it happens to be a positive number, which actually it tends to almost always be positive for US equities, okay? The big part of what I was trying to explain on the call last night is that because you don't see it, this part gets completely forgotten about. And you don't know to look for it in many cases. So this number is based on the amount of positive and negative returns. Okay, so even though this is a positive number, so a positive expected return in quad 1, 75% of the time. But 25% of the time, there can be a negative return. And that's the part that people, like I said, either don't know to look for or completely miss from their calculation of, selecting whatever ETF or whatever in the quads. This is obviously, so this calculation needs to be done 4 times for each of the separate quads, which gives you this chart, okay, for XLI again. But then as that chart is obviously much, much larger, the one that I've referenced, you need to do this over multiple times for the transition from quad 1 to quad 2, which will have a different set of expected returns because these numbers will fall. Obviously, there's not going to be as many instances of, quad 1 to quad 3, let's say. So one, the total number will be less, and the positive and negative values will also be different. So it's never just one choice. Okay, like anything, there's always a decision to be made, and once you know that there is how it's calculated, it helps you understand that it's not just black and white, right? We're in quad 1, so you need to buy X, Y, or Z, and you need to short 1, 2, and 3. There is a decision to be made because it's a probability. It's not just a number. It's not just, it's got an expected return of 4%. Yeah, it's got an expected return of 4% given the different percentage positive and percentage negative values. Yeah, so I hope that helps. This is for XLI, but we can XLK. Again, this is just for quad 1, but obviously all these values change. So XLK has a percentage positive of 85%. Something else, let's say XLU. There you go, so it's only 65% and 35. I don't know what XLE is. It's quite high. But again, it's only 65 and 35. So again, this instance is skewed. For XLE, this is skewed obviously because it's come from quad 2, which it would be interesting to see what the expected return changes to when you do the calculation for just the times that it's gone from quad 2 to quad 1. That's what you have to take into account as well. So for instance, although you have to take in XLK is 85%, so you would take that over anything. What's XLY, just for instance? So it's 80%, okay? But again, there's still a 20% chance. So 2 times in 10, or in this case, 4 out of 20 have had a negative return. Okay, it's only an 80% chance. That still means there's a 20% chance that it's got a negative return. And then the second part to this question that came up about timing is that the transition to quad one's come really early. Why? Is it because the market is pricing in the data, or is it because taking your asset allocation hat off and putting your trader hat on is the recent 4% drawdown in the S&P 500 gives you a buffer? That minus 4% drawdown doesn't happen very often, despite what you'd think. I think it's only happened 4 or 5 times this year. So making the pivot to quad one, knowing the data was going to start pricing it in, but taking advantage of a 4% drawdown means that, say exactly for instance, XLY, you've bought yourself a 4%, if it goes back to all-time highs, you've bought yourself a 4% buffer. You've bought the dip in what you wanted to move into, which was XLY. So there's a asset allocation decision made alongside a trading decision that you had this 4% drawdown, which you were able to take advantage of. And that's a kind of a separate question. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that separately. But okay. So I just wanted to explain it. It's everybody just sees this positive number or whatever it is on the charts. Just sees a positive number. But I thought it's really helpful to show you how it's calculated, and that this number is dependent on the positive times and the negative times. So even though that's a positive number, you have to take into account this side of the equation, which is the negative side, because nothing is positive 100% of the time. So I hope that's helpful. Again, thanks to the guys for organising the Twitter Spaces. So yeah, if you've not joined yet, I've found them really helpful. I'm not able to join every week, but it's really good, because as amazing as Hedgeye and Keith and all the other guys are, it's helpful, even if it's not direct advice. It's helpful to listen to other people that are maybe going through the same questions or troubles, or at the same time as you. Not everyone gets it straight away. I certainly didn't, and I haven't. So yeah, it's just good to hear from other people that's I don't want to say going through the same thing like it's painful, but it's good just to have a sounding board. Yeah, so thanks guys, have a good day, cheers.